Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and today in this video we're going to discuss the situation with Prigozhin, with Wagner, and with probably military coup on the territory of Russian Federation. So for this we're going to talk about the most important actors of this scene. We're going to talk about Prigozhin himself, Shoigu, the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation, and of course the head of Ukrainian Russian Army, Valery Gerasimov, the head of Special Military Operation. According to this map, as you can see, this map shows the not real presence, not the real location of these icons. So first of all, let's adjust the map and then we will continue. First of all, after the fall of Artyomovsk, the fall of Bakhmut, according to information we have, Prigozhin was removed to in the vicinity of Lugansk. He had the main base and something like camps, military camps of his forces somewhere in the vicinity of Lugansk. Later, we have removed the Wagners and Prigozhin himself to Belgorod region because the sources were saying that because of the situation on the border, Wagners were planned to remove in direction of Belgorod region, in direction of Kharkiv and so on, and we thought a lot and we made our own projections, speculation, thinking that Wagner and Special Unit Akhmat, Prigozhin, will attack and will try to capture Kharkiv, or will at least solve the issue on the Belgorod border. Furthermore, another icon is in the south, is the head of Russian army, head of Special Military Operation, Valery Gerasimov. We have moved him in this direction recently because, if you remember, during the 4th and the 5th of June, there was a Ministry of Defense report where the Russians reported that Valery Gerasimov visited the combat line. It was controlling and coordinating Russian forces all over the combat line during that offensive, during the beginning of offensive operation. But basically, after a few days of counter-offensive Ukraine operation, when the operation was completely fell, the head of Russian army Valery Gerasimov was redeployed and moved himself to Rostov-na-Don. Basically, Rostov-na-Don is the main base of Russian forces, the main headquarters that the Russians used to control and to coordinate the entire army all over the combat line. And the final actor is Sergei Shoigu, the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation. Yesterday we discussed that he visited Belgorod with an inspection, but the source was saying that he visited not yesterday, but these days he made an inspection, and there was a video published by the Minister of Defense. After that, this person have moved to the south and he had a meeting with, according to the information we have, with Sergei Gerasimov, with the head of Russian army. So probably they have some meetings and so on. So together they were in Rostov-na-Don. So this is the beginning of this story, let's say. Yesterday in the evening we got the first update. The video that were published, the video was published by the official sources of Evgeny Prigozhin, the head of Wagner's, and according to this video, there is a soldier who's running across some camp in the forest. He was running, he was saying that everything is bad, they attacked us, everything is terrible, so we have big problems, oh my god, what to do? So basically, according to this video, the Wagners are saying that the soldiers was running in the camp, and this camp was attacked by missiles. And according to Prigozhin, that attack was made not by the Ukrainians, but according to the signs in the sky, this attack was made by Russian forces, and probably that was the final thing that break that force of Prigozhin and forced Wagner's to start acting. And after that, the Wagners and Prigozhin published a lot of video, not video, but a lot of voice messages, and I believe you've heard all of them. If you haven't had possibility to translate them, I will tell you that most of those audio messages was about that the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation, the Minister of Defense, the head of Russian Army, these two persons we just discussed, Gerasimov and Shoigu, are criminals. They are killing people, they're killing soldiers, they're not supplying Russian army with weapon, they're bad guys, and has a lot of so they are the main people who is responsible for losses of the territory, the loss of Izum, the loss of a lot of Liman and so on. So these are bad guys, and Prigozhin was going to make truth come true on the surface, and to replace these guys and to win this war in Ukraine and so on. So a lot of interesting talks and so on. And after that, after the Prigozhin started publishing this video, these audio talks, and after publishing this video with explosion, somewhere in Wagner's camp, the Wagners started movement in direction of border, and they started movement in direction of Rostov-na-Donu. And according to information we have, Wagner's had a lot of camps and still have in the vicinity of Lugansk. So some forces, some Russian Wagner forces crossed the border on the south in the vicinity of like border passage by the name of Dovzhanskaya, or like so in this area, and the Russians are saying, the Russian sources are saying that the length of the convoy was around 50 kilometers. So the first group of Wagners passed on the south, and this is very close to Rostov-na-Donu. We can calculate the distance with Rostov-na-Donu for these purposes. So so we can say the distance to Rostov-na-Donu from the first point was around 86 kilometers, so it's not very big distance. And imagine yourself that the entire convoy, that it was the updates we start receiving somewhere at 2 or 1 a.m. of the local time. So this is the distance even more, because there's like a straight line and we have some corners and so on. 86 kilometers, 53 miles, and imagine yourself that the entire like convoy was on this front line was around 50 kilometers. So basically, so the entire line of Russian forces was something like this. They were moving to the south. The second army, the second Wagner's army, crossed the border in the vicinity of Voloshina, this settlement on the north, and they were moving also to the MO4 road. As you can see, they were trying to move from the north. As you can see, Wagner took a decision to split their army, not to collect everything in one convoy, because understand they thought about the risk, and not just about risk. In the end of the video I will give you my opinion about the situation. Probably they just, it was like from logistic perspective, it was smarter to split the forces, and one force should use the northern road and the second one southern, and furthermore the northern forces will secure the northern flank. So Wagner's crossed the border and started movement in direction of Rostov. After that, we got during the night a lot of videos, a lot of helicopters who were flying. There were like rumors and talks that some helicopters started bombing and shelling Prigozhin forces. Furthermore, Prigozhin himself published a video and another audio like message where he was saying that the aircraft Su-34 received an order from Gerasimov and Shoigu to attack like Wagner's convoys along the road, but they refused to follow this criminal order and so on. Basically, we haven't received any updates or any confirmation that there was any attack from any airplane against the Wagner's convoys, so basically they will know. But Wagner's in another audio message reported that as a result of air defense work, they shut down at least 3 helicopters that were attacking Wagner's convoys that were heading in direction of Rostov-na-Donu. Somewhere at 3 a.m., the Russians start publishing video how they were started blocking the road in front of Wagner's who were heading in the direction of Rostov-na-Donu. The source of this video is saying that this is like the Russian National Guard and something like this, but as we can see anyway, no matter that they were trying to block the road, Wagner's managed to bypass this territory. They managed to bypass, and to somewhere at 4 or 5 a.m. of the local time, Wagner's managed to enter the settlement. They managed to enter Rostov-na-Donu, and by that time, the Sergei Shoigu, the Minister of Defense, and Valery Gerasimov, the head of Russian army, left these settlements. For now, the destination where they have moved is unknown. I believe that they have moved to the north, probably making some kind of hook, or probably they have moved to Volgograd. This is the closest point, and the Russians have already also blocked the roads in direction of this settlement. So basically, I don't think that they were able to fly to the north. It was too risky. I believe that they moved in the very near settlement somewhere in Volgograd. And Prigozhin by this morning entered Rostov-na-Donu, and basically he captured, we can say that the sources are saying that he captured the settlement, not just Rostov-na-Donu, also the Russians are saying that he captured this small settlement on the south by the name of Bataysk. This settlement is located on the hill, and basically on this video you see that the car moving along the road, and on the final like screens of this video we're gonna see Russians Wagner soldiers somewhere Yes, this is the part. Wagner's soldiers somewhere in this area, so you can see a lot of soldiers. So the Wagners have captured the southern flank of this settlement. Basically, they have secured themselves on the hills from any attacks from the south area. Wagners have captured, of course, the northern settlements, and they established another control over the northern part of Rostov. And Wagners also entered the settlement as well itself. And today we got a lot of videos. The entire number of Wagner forces who are currently in Rostov-na-Don and in the Rostov-on-Don region on Don is around 25,000 soldiers. And when talking during the night, a lot of Russian officers, generals like Surovikin, published their own videos asking Wagner to stop and not to do anything. Surovikin is the only person that who Prigozhin respect. This person coordinated actions with between Minister of Defense and General Staff and Prigozhin himself and this person who helped Wagner to create operation of storming Bakhmut. So as I understand, it's a very good friend of Wagner or of Prigozhin or something like this. On this video, this person asking them to stop, not to do this because we have enemies abroad, not like in the territory of Russian Federation and so on. And this morning we started receiving a lot of videos how Wagner's captured the central part of the settlement. Basically, as you can see, there's armored vehicles, soldiers lying on the ground, a lot of people who walking along the street making their own TikTok or YouTube shorts or something like this. Anyway, the entire capture of the settlement took place without even a single shot, just based on the Wagners. They shut down at least 3 helicopters, my bad. This is the video is coming from the general south general headquarters, and as we discussed, the Shoigu and the head of Russian army have already left this territory by that time. And on this video we can see the first negotiation process between the head of Russian intelligence, not the head with a vice head of Russian intelligence, and another general. He's a very famous general. I can't remember his name right now. And they were talking about the situation, and Wagner told them that we have captured. He told them we have captured Rostov-na-Don. On Don, we are not going to move. We are not going to make any barriers or problems for you to continue your job. You can continue clashes and special military operation, but the purpose of ours, that why we captured Rostov-on-Don, is that to prevent and not to allow the Ministry of Defense to bomb Wagner's forces with aircrafts and artillery. So basically, the things that Wagner did is he understand that most of his camps were located among fields and forests, and it was a very nice target for the Russian Ministry of Defense, for Shoigu, to attack his camps using the artillery, using aircrafts, using different missiles and so on. So he was under the sky, and he was a very good target for Minister of Defense Shoigu and head of Russian army Gerasimov. So basically, he just take a decision to cover his army inside of Rostov-on-Don and to use this settlement as a living shield. And because of course the Russians won't attack, the Ministry of Defense won't attack settlement when there are a lot of civilians, there could be a lot of casualties. So he just secured himself. This is the first reason. And you need to understand another reason why Prigozhin did that. If you remember, basically, during the Battle of Bakhmut, Prigozhin managed to accumulate a very powerful army. By the end of that war, he had around 25,000 professional stormtroopers, soldiers. And right after the Battle of Bakhmut finished on the 21st of May, and after that, according to sources, he were moved to the camps for trainings, regroupings, and so on. But basically, we can say that his contract has expired on the 21st of May, and basically, the Ministry of Defense didn't want to sign any further contract with him. And of course, we understand that contract, first of all, is not just like aim and target purpose to live. Contract, first of all, is money. So as you understand, on the 21st of May, probably Prigozhin received the final payment somewhere on the 20th of June. Right now, for May, like salary for May, he received in June. And after that, he understands that the Ministry of Defense is not going to sign a contract, so that's mean that in July he doesn't have any possibilities to pay salary to his 25,000 army. And basically, that was another reason why he started this operation, because, as I understand, the Ministry of Defense tried to cut his power off, and so there was. So it's up to you to what was the real purposes of that operation. But as I understand, the first one, the most important one, was money. And of course, we will discuss another option, another thing in the end of this video. And later, Prigozhin published another video where he was saying that Rostov-on-Don was captured, that Wagner's managed to capture every single important building, like settlement, the Ministry of Defense, and so on, but they're not going to make any barriers. Everybody can continue working, but we will wait for Gerasimov and so on. So this is the situation. First of all, we need to understand that this is not a military coup, because when talking about military coup, that means that some forces are trying to replace the current leader of nation, of like Russian Federation and so on. But currently we see that Prigozhin was trying to replace the head of Russian army and like Valery Gerasimov and the Minister of Defense Shoigu. This is the first thing. Furthermore, everybody, and including Prigozhin, talks about Putin very good words. He doesn't say anything bad about him. So he tries to show that we don't have any problems with the president of Russian Federation. We just have the problems with the Minister of Defense and the head of Russian army. This is the first thing. Okay, now I'll give you my opinion. If you ask me, of course, it's a very terrible situation, and if you ask me what my first reaction to this situation, because currently I'm living in Belarus, and of course in this country on the north of Ukraine, and we have like all very tightly connections with the Russians, and of course if Russia have problem, we understand in Belarus that we will have problems as well. And the first reaction, my reaction against this towards the situation, was that the Russians need to stop this situation no matter the price and no matter the cost. So this was the first reaction, to stop today, not to give this situation to spread further, to stop it today, no matter what. To stop it no matter what. And believe me, most of the Russians, those soldiers who are located on the combat line in Moscow and cities, who understand the situation, of course nobody wants to start a civil war in Russia, because it will ruin the Russia completely, and it will ruin the Russia completely, of course. So everybody wants to stop this situation as fast as possible. And now let's talk not just about the situation, let's talk about the events that took place before this situation. And during the previous two videos we were talking about that Ukrainians launched at least 4 total mobilizations in different settlements. The first one, Ivano-Frankovsk, the second one, Lvov, Kiev, and Chernigov. So at least 4 settlements that we have documents have announced about the beginning of the total mobilization, right? And basically, the last mobilization that the Russians made took place in October, right? And after that, they were trying to sign contracts. And for example, the Russian Minister of Defense Shoigu reported they have signed contracts with around 100,000 soldiers. But you need to understand that those 100,000 soldiers is not the newly recruited soldiers. These 100,000 soldiers also includes volunteers and soldiers of private military companies that were located already in Ukraine. So the Russian army during this year haven't increased on 100,000. Maybe the army have increased for like 50,000, but the rest 50,000 is already the soldiers who were located on the territory of Ukraine, but under another flag, like volunteers and so on. So this is the situation. But the Ukrainians, since the Russian mobilization in October, have already made 3 mobilizations. The first one that was like the same time with the Russians, the second was somewhere in February, March and April, and now the Ukrainians have launched another third wave of mobilization, and they're planning to mobilize around 100,000 soldiers. And the thing is that during the battle of Zaporozhye, the Ukrainians haven't lost 100,000 soldiers during the June, just 14 according to the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation, right? So basically, the Ukrainians haven't lost the number of forces to replace them with mobilization with 100,000 soldiers. The Ukrainians is on process to increase their army more and more and to make Ukrainian army 3 times, 4 times more than the Russians one. And basically we are getting back to the situation with Rostov-na-Donu. My first reaction was to stop this situation anyway. And basically, this entire situation currently gives the Russians at least a few benefits. The first one, as you can see, Prigozhin captured this settlement without any fire. He told that they shot down 3 helicopters. Maybe we will see some video confirmations, but this is not the losses so that can ruin the entire Russia. So this is not this such a critical situation. But from the other side, we see that Prigozhin is not going to leave Rostov. He will try to blockade the settlement, at least for some period of time. And this situation gives the Russians, to be more precise, this situation gives Putin power to announce, first of all, to adopt martial law on the territory of Russian Federation, and the second one to announce the total mobilization. So these are 2 things that the Russians benefits, because one more time, every single person in Russia, maybe they don't want to have special military operation, maybe they're tired, maybe they don't want to fight on the front, but they don't want to have problems on their territory. They don't want a civil war, and they're ready for everything just to prevent civil war. And total mobilization is the best solution, according to everybody, to do this. Because if Wagners have 25,000 soldiers, and if this settlement will be encircled by million army, of course Prigozhin will surrender. It's obviously. But so anyway, there are at least we can make some conclusions. Probably this is something like a game, a cinema, and the main purpose of that to launch massive mobilization in Russia and to adopt martial law all over the territory of Russian Federation. The second one is that this is a real situation where Prigozhin have captured Rostov-on-Don, is going to block the settlement. Anyway, this situation gives the Putin power to adopt martial law and to launch massive mobilization. Anyway, in any case, no matter this is a real situation, this is military coup, or this is just a game, the Russians currently are able to mobilize up to 5 million soldiers and to solve the situation with Ukraine, with Prigozhin in the next half a year. So this is the most important thing that you need to think about during today and during receiving a lot of updates from Telegram channels, from internet and so on. And that's it for this video. Military Summer channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.